Hi, my name is Vicki Knight and I'm from Vanderbilt University, and I'm going to talk to you today about our article about discrete trial training. So the article was called A Model for Problem Solving in Discrete Trial Training for Children with Autism, and the reason that I selected this is because of our topic, which is intensifying interventions, figuring out what the problems are with the intervention, and determining how we can fix those problems. So some of you may already be familiar with discrete trials and discrete trial training, discrete trial instruction, or discrete trial teaching, as they're also called. For those of you that are not familiar, discrete trial teaching is a one-to-one instructional approach that is very planned, systematic, and concise. It's called discrete because it has a clear beginning and a clear end. With discrete trial training, the use of antecedents and consequences is also planned, and the SD elicits a target behavior. So, for example, one approach to doing this would be to deliver the SD or the stimulus that you expect would elicit the response from the student. This could be in the form of a flashcard, it could be a task direction, etc. The second thing that you want to do is determine whether or not the instructor waited 3 to 5 seconds for the student to respond. So you want to give the child enough wait time. The third thing that you want to do is determine what kind of feedback you're going to give the child. So if it's a correct answer, you want to give reinforcement, praise, tangibles, etc. If the response was incorrect, then you want to provide error correction for that child. And in our article, it talks about various different ways that you can do that, and prompting systems and ways of prompting that you can approach. The next thing that you want to do is make sure that that feedback is delivered within 1 second of the child responding. So as soon as the child responds, immediately after your words, you want to provide praise or error correction, depending on the child's behavior. And then you want to wait in between the trials, at least 3 to 5 seconds in between that trial that I just explained, that instructional trial, and the following instructional trial. So why are discrete trial training, why is it important to this discussion? It's important because it is an evidence-based practice for individuals with autism spectrum disorder, especially in elementary grades, early childhood and elementary. And it can be used effectively across different outcomes to address social, communication, behavior, joint attention, school readiness, and academic skills, which is why we're talking about it today. So that leads into our reading. And some guiding questions I want you to think about with our reading include: what is discrete trial training and what are the 5 different parts? I want you to be able to generate an example on your own based on that format that I gave you, using an academic skill, and challenge yourself to think of an academic skill that may be more difficult than just numeral recognition or naming the letters of the alphabet, because those we could probably figure out how to do. The second thing I want you to do is, based on the article, I want you to decide how you will know whether or not your instructional program is effective and what you can do to problem solve based on that. Then that leads into the next question, which is, what are the 4 main reasons why those instructional approaches are sometimes ineffective or they're not working? And what might you do to address those problems? And finally, an area of concern that I really want you to think about is failure to generalize. And the reason is because generalization is a hard skill for children with autism spectrum disorder in general. But especially with academic skills, and some academic skills that may not be maintained from year to year or once a child acquires new information. So I want you to challenge yourself in thinking about how you would program for generalization based on this article, rather than looking at whether or not you had generalization and then figuring out a problem-solving approach after the fact. So what things might you do from the get-go so that you can program for generalization strategies? So those are the things that you should be focusing on. And the last thing that I will tell you is the reason that I selected this article is because it gives you very concrete problem-solving approaches for each of those areas that could become problems when you are collecting data. So it also gives you examples of what your data will look like if it is effective, if it's ineffective, if it's variable, or if there's no progress. And so I really liked that about that article, that it showed what that might look like. Data collected from discrete trials can be used to guide intensification based on the common problems discussed in the article. So for example, the article recommends that a typical teaching session consists of 10 different trials. And that may vary depending on your students and where they're at in their instructional programming. 1 to 2 sessions per day of those 10 trials. So for example, a child who is just beginning learning how to do discrete trial training, or who quickly becomes frustrated, may not receive all of those trials or may not receive multiple sessions, versus a child who has been experienced with the program may be able to tolerate more trials per session or more sessions per day. So those are just some things to think about when you are thinking about individualization and guiding intensification of your practice. So I hope that that was helpful and that guided you in terms of what to be thinking about in the article. And I'm also going to provide a couple of other resources for you. One is the Wong et al. Article that has a nice fact sheet on discrete trial teaching that I actually used in this video. And another one is an article that has the steps for the instructional trial so that you can self-monitor. So I may just take a clip art picture of that and send that on, or the entire article. But the article you're required to read for this particular session is the one on the problem-solving approach. So I hope that was helpful, and let me know if you have any other questions, and happy reading.